The country we now call the United States of America was not born overnight. Its name carries confusion, ambition, blood, and war, a history that is often simplified and sometimes deliberately forgotten. This story does not begin with skyscrapers or fighter jets. It begins in deep forests, open plains, and people sitting quietly around firelight. The first people of this land never called themselves Americans because America did not yet exist. Thousands of years before Europeans arrived, more than 50 million people lived across North America. They were not one nation. They were hundreds of tribes: Cherokee, Apache, Sioux, Navajo, Iroquois, and many more. Some were hunters. Some were farmers. Some believed rivers, mountains, and animals were sacred spirits. To them, land was not property. Land was family. Land was life. Today we call them Native Americans. They called themselves simply the people. In 1492, Christopher Columbus crossed the Atlantic Ocean searching for India. He never reached India. Instead, he landed in the Caribbean. Believing he had found Asia, Columbus called the people he met Indians. A simple mistake, but that mistake opened the door to centuries of destruction. In his journals, Columbus wrote, "They would make fine servants," and at that moment, conquest quietly began. Europeans did not arrive with weapons alone. They brought invisible killers: smallpox, measles, influenza. Native populations had no immunity. Entire villages disappeared. In some regions, over 90% of the population died without a single battle. Those who survived faced two choices: the gun or the Bible. They were told their ways were wrong, their gods were false, and their land now belonged to someone else. In 1607, the English established Jamestown, their first permanent colony. Soon followed 13 British colonies. These settlements were built by pushing native people away and by the forced labor of enslaved Africans. Sugar, tobacco, cotton. America's early economy rose on suffering, and war became its silent companion. The name America did not come from Columbus. It came from an Italian explorer, Amerigo Vespucci. He argued that this land was not Asia, but an entirely new world. In 1507, a map was printed with a single word written across the continent: America. There were no United States yet. There was no nation. But the name had been born, and very soon that name would be shaped by revolution and war. In 1773, protest turned theatrical. The Boston Tea Party. Tea crates thrown into dark water. A silent message to the crown. Britain responded with force, and force created resistance. In 1775, the first shots were fired. Farmers became soldiers. Merchants became generals. George Washington took command of an unlikely army. Against the most powerful. By the early 1700s, the land called America was no longer silent. It was restless, controlled by kings who lived across an ocean. And history has shown no land ruled from far away remains obedient forever. The 13 colonies belonged to Britain. The king ruled. The colonists obeyed. At least, that was the plan. Taxes were imposed without representation. Stamp Act, Sugar Act, Townshend Acts. The message was clear: pay, do not question. But the colonies began to question everything.